Kia ora te whānau. So every great designer, creative innovator has been misunderstood at some point in their life by clients, by the industry, or even by themselves. Misunderstood is about the stories behind the creatives, the struggles, the breakthroughs, and the moments of doubt, and the resilience that turned it all around. So today we've got super excited to have Matt Allen here with us today. He is the founder and creative force behind Matter, a solo design studio and development studio based in Aotearoa. With over 30 years of experience in design, Matt has evolved alongside digital landscape, offering full stack design solutions and encompassing branding, digital design, packaging, and more. Bro, how old are you?
52.
52, yeah. 52 years young, bro. That's pretty awesome, eh? So prior to establishing Matter in 2001, is that right?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, Matt held big roles in creative leads, as a creative lead at Web Media and as a senior art director at Terabyte Interactive, both prominent names in Aotearoa's digital creative scene. His extensive sort of portfolio showcases collaborations with a wide range of clients, delivering projects that span from SaaS to FMCG branding. And one of the things that really, I guess, struck me as I was doing research on Matt is his commitment to creating impactful user-centric designs that solidify his reputation as a pretty versatile and innovator here in Aotearoa, bro. So, tēnā koe, bro. It's good to have you with us, eh?
Yeah, nice to be here. Yeah.
Good to have you, bro. And so, bro, I'd love to go from the beginning. You know, like, where do you whakapapa to, bro? Like, where did you grow up?
Right, so I was born in Christchurch, and my mother's family comes from Invercargill, so they're quite, down south. Yeah. My father was from Australia, born in Australia. His father was born in New Zealand, so it's been a bit of a cross, trans-Tasman kind of environment. And then my nana on my dad's side, was both my kids have got different Māori inputs from, from a long time ago. So on my dad's side, it's Ngāi Tahu. So Ngāi Tahu, and my father did a lot of research into like the history of our family going all the way back to Europe, and then the whaling people who came here. So it was like Lewis Ackerson was my ancestor with Mary P. And back then times are very different, and they had a whole lot of kids. So in regards to the pathway away, that the actual cultural look of people come down as well. The things that I've noticed is like when there's been a female, so my Māori heritage is from the female side, and it follows through the girls in that family to kind of keep that look, but the opposite side kind of shifts and doesn't, keep those looks, which is quite interesting. True. And the same things happen to my neighbour. When I can see like brother and sister, one was fully Māori and one doesn't, but it's because it's the man on that side that's come through. So it's interesting seeing, those sort of things. If you'd look at me, you'd think I'm 100% European, right? But I'm a mixture of like, sort of like Māori is like a sub thing there, Australian, Ireland, Scottish, English, everything. Yeah, I mean, like, and
you're
I think,
Māori,
everyone is like that. Everyone has a really mixed heritage, and that's something that we should celebrate. It's something that we should bring 100%. Everything in together, and live together like that, and understand that we're not like some sort of like black and white stream of people. We are a mix. We're a big mix, and that's what's really interesting. I have
to think about that as like being, the ability, when you have whakapapa that is diverse, you become the bridge between those cultures as well, and it's pretty cool. Well, kia ora, bro. I didn't know that, bro. That, Ngāi Tahu, do you fellas like every now and then, like visit, do you have a whānau marae at the moment, bro? Or
that was one of the things that it's never really been, and when I've grown up, like a strong connection, to the Māori side of the family. But my father's the one who did a lot of research into it. But he was more of a background researcher, like a genealogy researcher, to find out, that history. There is people that are down there that do have connection with Ngāi Tahu, and Terabyte Interactive, so I contacted him because he's Ngāi Tahu as well. So it was good to see that, but it's not been in my upbringing. If we think back, 10, 15 years ago, we were really embracing multicultural. like 30 years ago we weren't.
I know.
Okay,
yes.
so that's the problem. So yes. I think it is really good that we've embraced the multiculture, and we need to continue to do that. And you know, we have ties back to those times. The other thing as well is like the history of the maraes and things that were back then. They've gone now. You know, things have evolved, things have changed. You know, so that's, you know, I'm interested in that history. I've got like extensive family history research from my dad, and yeah, and that's another thing that we can talk about later, because I mean, he spent more time doing that probably than actually looking after us or spending time with us, you know. So,
oh wow, interesting. Yeah. Yeah. What did your parents? What did your parents get up to, bro?
So when I was like growing up, I'll talk a little bit about if we just think about what kids are like. So kids go through a time when they grow up, and when they start losing their teeth, they're going through a massive hormonal change. And what that is a time when they are changing from a child to an adult. And what you have at that point is your first adult memories, because you actually have a thing called childhood amnesia. So what it means is, like, my dad was with us, like, you know, when I was like 8 or 10 years old, but I don't even really remember him because, you know, you just don't, as a person, you don't remember those times. And what also happens is you get this nostalgia band when you're like, you know, from like sort of like 8 to 12 years old, where those first memories that you have, those are going to be the things that actually like stick to you. You know, those are those very first memories. So if you were riding horses for that time, you're probably going to love riding horses your whole life. Do you know what I mean? And that's one of the things with my tattoos and everything, my story that I've told on there is all about like that, me growing up in that time being focused on, you know, computers and video games and exploring that. But it was black and white TV. You know, like everything was very, very different back then to be able to have, like, you know, technology in the house was amazing. It was brand new and exciting. So what happened was my parents split up. For me personally, it was kind of a hard time. I didn't have like a consistent male role model in the house, and I kind of like shrunk a bit in terms of emotionally, I think, in terms of making a connection in that space. So always had my mum and my sister there, and then I went through years of, you know, just growing up and becoming like, you know, a young man, and also through those years just, you know, being, like I say, engaging in computers, always, you know, playing games, you know, new things, but also balancing that with, you know, bike riding and playing cricket and role-playing games and those sort of things. So pretty good, you know, childhood, but it's just that thing with my parents splitting up kind of drove a real wedge in my life.
It's hard. It is difficult, bro. You know, like, I mean, our whānau, like my parents grew up, you know, a very different generation, and as an adult, I understand it now. When I was a young fella, like, it was, you know, it felt pretty hard to understand. But, you know, our whānau, we whakapapa to China, so my parents were there was sort of that first wave of Chinese people where education was the way out, and so for them, they got educated and they did really well sort of in that space. But it's just, I find it so fascinating the way that we parent today is what's being role modeled to us as kids as well. And, you know, like, I've always, as a teenager, I've always, you know, felt that, like, my parents didn't split, but you know, it wasn't like the perfect marriage. But as a child, I always, you know, like, I always felt that, like, kind of similar, you know, wanted a bit more of a dad as a role model. I didn't quite get it in that way, and as an adult I understand, because it was the way that he was brought up, right? It was the way that when he was brought up, it was pretty strict, it was pretty tough, it was rule driven. There was a lot of views on, you know, as a man, this is what you need to be like, and you know, his parents probably my granddad wasn't pretty very as emotionally available to him. And as a result of that, you know, like, yes, I understand it now, but it doesn't make it easier. And I noticed, you know, for you, you digged into games, you digged into technology was part of it, but also the bike riding too. For me, it was like we used to have this little sleep out, and I would just go in and do oil painting for 8 hours, 9 hours a day, and just completely get lost in a day. I mean, I was wondering, you know what, like, you know, for you, you found, I guess, escapes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, how did that then? I guess, would you attribute where you got to today from some of those experiences as a kid? You know, like digging into technology and into games.
Yeah, I mean, very much so.
Yeah.
I mean, part of like what I was doing as well at the time is I read like phenomenally, like, you know, get through a book a week. I love fantasy novels, you know, so did a lot of reading. Love drawing as well, so yeah, did a lot of you know, like sort of like fantasy inspired drawing, you know, back in the day. So the way that I was shaped as a child was like the technology was there, but like, you know, it's very different now where everything's kind of on demand. So you know, there was a lot of like things out there that we wanted. I think it was just new and exciting. Like, you know, we've got a watch like this now, but like back then what I wanted was the Console space shuttle watch. Like the technology was at a really exciting time, and so it was really cool to just like, you know, get new. And you know, like we talk about games like on computers, but we had like handheld games like Game & Watch or Astro Wars and those sort of things, which every new bit of technology was also new. And that's one of the other really cool things about, you know, times gone by is like there was no convention about what something should look like or how it should operate, and so people just created lots of unique things.
Really?
Yes. So it's very, very different. Like if you think about
go into that a bit more.
Like in the 50s, like when toasters were coming out, right? You didn't really know what a toaster should look like, and so people made all sorts of different types of toasters. And when toasters were first made, they only toasted one side of the bread, so someone then had the idea to toast both sides of the bread at once. And then, you know, toasters that would, you know, be different shapes and different sizes. But if you think about like when these things are brand new, like, and you would have been in this position with your business, things are brand new and there's no convention about how to use it or how to do it. Like you're breaking new ground all the time, but it also gives you creative freedom, because what happens, unfortunately, and this is one of the things that I actually mentioned in one of your posts, was that when you get to a point where everything's been sorted and there's no more innovation, the only pathway is to try and cut costs. And that's where we get like issues around quality, right? Okay? So that is like something that happens like when, you know, the toaster got refined to the point where it wasn't going to get any better. You know, it would be either like 2 bits of toast, 4 bits of toast, have a timer, would go down. How do we make it cheaper? How do we, you know, and so if you see, like, you get to this point where they've just gone from like the big metal Joule style toasters to smaller, you know, like to the point where they're $5 or whatever. That's the kind of pathway that things take.
It's like how else do you compete, right? Like, you know.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
We're all making toasters.
How
am I going to get one up on you? Well, I've got timers. Well, timers are being overdone. Everyone's got timers now. What else can I do? Well, I'm gonna cut costs.
Yes, that's right. And so what happens then is, like, if we think about electronics and computers, Japan was the epicenter of making capacitors, and then China started making them, but they didn't have them at the same quality level, and they just didn't last. So what that means is when computers got made, like there was a series of gigabyte computers that got made, well, the capacitors were failing, and so the computers were failing. So, and it's because they took what it was, they tried to make it, but they tried to make it cheaper. And this is the unfortunate thing. Like, I had my high school calculator, which I got when I was 12 years old. The batteries for that only died like, and we're talking like, you know, AA batteries, like probably about 3 or 4 years ago, and they powered that calculator and they didn't leak. You know, it is like, we're talking about like super good quality. They had to make it. They had to like make it and make it well. Yeah. And then since then they've been trying to bring costs down. Gotcha. And there is sometimes when companies will try and improve a technology, make it better. Let's say any loop batteries, which don't tend to leak and they hold their charge better. But those sort of times are they're gone. As in like these things that will last forever. We're in a throwaway society, and this is where critical is picking up those throwaways now.
That's so interesting what you just said, because like how you talked a bit about before we had a conception of what a toaster or what a computer should be. There was almost like this explosion of innovation.
Yes.
That then over time became convention, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And then the more that we become used to it, the less innovation that we feel that there's less innovation. So what we do is we then go and cut costs. Where do you think we're at the moment, right now, in this point in time, right? Like, and what is the pathway forward for the future of consumer electronics to building materials? Like, yeah.
So there's a number of pathways, right? And like say web design at the moment is one of those that is like has been through a big flat design period, right? And then it's become so uniform in the way that it's actually like implemented that when you're using Figma, you've got drag and drop like UI packs to just go and do the stuff.
The Illustrator for apps, right? Yeah.
I mean, like it's to the point where it's so easy to do it that people that don't really know how to design are doing it, and that's called DIY design, which is like a new kind of movement, and that has its own issues. Okay. But if you look at other sectors and the way that they work, well, they've all got their own pathway, their own challenges, and you've got to take a look at whatever that sector is. Like say for example, smartphones, right? Incremental changes, and all smartphones are kind of looking the same.
Apple's become the convention, right?
That's right. But then you got people who are trying to innovate. So let's say folding phones, right? Okay, so there is innovation in that space. Okay, but over time there's been like this the norm that gets generated, right? Yeah. And there will be differences in so user interface or the way things work, but they are trying to incrementally innovate, not completely reinvent. We just got to look back to what the iPhone was, and that was a great innovation.
Revolutionary.
Yeah, that's right.
A computer in your pocket.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So, and as that's come out, it's like one of these points where, again, like I will get into me starting being a graphic designer, because I was a craft graphic designer using traditional methods, and computers were just a new thing. So yes, that we're at another big crunch point now with AI and how that's going, and that seems to be the new innovation space, to me. So how that's going to play out for everyone, it's almost like a turbocharge for everything that we're doing.
It is.
Yeah.
So, I mean, one of the things, I'm fully going off script now because this conversation is fascinating. Like, one of the things what we're trying to do with Critical is we're trying to figure out what is the next evolution in the way spaces and interiors are being built, and I think, I was an architect and I worked for a firm for 10 months before I decided this isn't for me. Yeah. And part of that path was I was designing an airport building, and I was discovering that although a building might last forever, the interior lasts 5 to 7 years, and if you're retail, it's 3 to 5. It's even shorter. Basically, whenever the lease runs out, the material, the interior gets stripped and redone. Branding guidelines, wear and tear, because every space needs to look nice and tidy. Yeah. Yeah, and I remember thinking to myself at the time, well, I could choose a product that's fit for purpose, and it's great, and it'll do its job, but we import it made from ingredients I can't pronounce. Or I could choose a sustainable product, and this was the mid-2010s. Yeah. There wasn't much or any available, and the ones that were available was just fucking ugly. It's just really ugly. It wasn't fit for purpose. And I guess with Critical, and I'm still figuring this out, what is the innovation in the materials space? I think circularity is a big part of that. I think considering a product that is just as important, where you consider what happens at the end of life, is important. A product that uses waste materials, a product that is all sustainable, low carbon, everything else. But the thing that I'm like struggling with is still the mindset of when people think materials, they're still guided by convention. Oh wait, it's a laminate MDF, right? I get that from China for $80, and then I'll chuck it into the skip when I'm done.
Yeah.
That's still the conventional mindset that makes, I guess, innovation difficult to break through, to be able to get to that level of scale. I mean, how do you do it, bro? Like, what are some of the things that you're seeing, or even how are you trying? What are you trying out, bro, in terms of, what you think is gonna help drive your practice forward and drive the profession forward?
Yeah, I think the fundamental thing is quality, right?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so people have got to understand that, and if we just step out of what I do and step out of what you do, and let's talk about PU leather.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or synthetic coatings, like soft touch coatings. Okay.
That's so shit, bro.
I know. So those have a life, and it's not a very long life.
No.
And so what happens is, like, I was a DJ as well, and I've got headphones, and the amount of headphone cups that just start disintegrating and get black all over you. Like, this is the problem that we've got, is it's easier to make something that, like a leather, a fake leather, than it is to do real leather. And that fake leather has a lifetime. Now, if we rewind even further, there was like vinyl, like, back in the day, which is like a fake leather, from the old school. But they stopped even making that, and they just went for this PU stuff, which is like a fabric which has a rubber spray on it, right? That's meant to look like, leather. And we're actually in the hospital, which is, I think, a space you could get into. Okay. In the hospital, and like a few weeks ago, and the chair in there was just like, the chair like this was just a PU leather chair, and it looked, I didn't even want to sit in it. It was gross. Do you know what I mean?
You tell me about it, bro.
Yeah.
I've got a car, 2011 car, and the steering wheel is wrapped in PU leather, and it's all disintegrated. Every time my hands are wet, and I rub the top of that handle, my hands are all black and dirt and dusted. It's so frustrating. Yeah.
So there's almost like your wedge that you can have for critical, okay, and that is this durability one, and like what you've got to do to kind of make that wedge work is to position the problems around that, right? Okay, and that means finding products like PU leather in your more commercial design space that you can actually focus on to be an improvement on, and think about like investment life cycles. That's and think how you could like say like we can double, triple, quadruple your investment life cycle, right? So think about that when you think about cost over time. So the other thing as well that is happening over those cycles is, I suppose, a new thing with us is the way that everything cycles over is faster, right? And so with what you do, how do you stay current, in this quick cycling kind of nature of things? And like you can have things that stay there for a long time, but you've got to make them, I suppose, design them to be future-proof in a way, creatively wise. Right. And when you look at the Māori designs on these here, well, they are future-proof because they're going to be with us forever, right? Okay. And then patterns and the way things are as well. With your product, you're breaking new ground, and that it's not around. So that's something that's going to last for you. So that's another thing that you can push as a real good benefit as to why you should choose critical.
I do find that like if we look at all of the great brands, Apple is real overused, right? But Apple, for example, even Airbnb, like those kind of companies, when they first started, they weren't targeting 100% of the market. They were targeting the only 10% of the market. The people who aligned their values and they double down on that, thinking, I think Apple's bet was that, you know, at the time, personal computing was going to be the future, but the market who's going to use personal computers are not people who grew up with computers, but it becomes a tool for creatives, for example, and that was their hypothesis of the future that they doubled down on. And one of the things I'm learning is that critical with Clingstone, we're not for everyone, and that's okay. You know, we just want to double down on the 10% of the market who will become the 100% in 10 years' time, when this is going to be important. But as a founder, man, like, you know, like when things are slow and things aren't going to plan and everyone is talking about cost, it's so hard, man. It's so hard to maintain and hold on to that value and that position, to just go after the people who get it. Yeah, so I mean, that's my reflection, bro, when you're talking about the whole total cost of ownership and everything else.
Yeah, that's one of the things. When we're at Auckland Design Week, I went to one of the talks, which was 4 girls who are, you know, fashion designers, right? And the challenges they have cost-wise, you know, hand making, you know, on demand. You know, and so it costs more, but people get exactly what they want. Okay, and they're in a bit of a niche position, like it's a targeted position, but they're still ticking over. And so that for you've got to get in and be able to find those niche markets. Okay, and I see you doing that, like, you know, whether you like schools and daycares, as I mentioned, things like hospitals, for example, are places that do need like regular, you know, reintroduction of new products, you know, where you can help. And I really love what you've been doing with the school desks, you know, so can see that as something like the other thing as well, when you just think about doing those school desks, is having something interesting on there, whether it just be like, you know, patterning or that, you know, we tend to look into things, and especially if, like, you know, the school desks were like this, like the pattern itself is just something you can dive into and explore. You know, so you've got opportunities there to be creating things that are more dynamic for people to engage with, you know.
I love it, I mean, going back to you, Matt, like, what, you know, going back into sort of like, you know, your childhood and sort of your teenage years, like, was there a time for you that you felt like, were you someone that was like, this is what I'm going to do, and then you just went after it? Or were you someone where you kind of went with the flow, and as opportunities presented itself, you respond to the opportunity to get to where you are? Like, what sort of a kid were you, and how did you, what were the seeds that was going to take you to where you are today?
So when I was at school, I did art, you know, art history and design in my 7th form year. I did like, you know, art, I suppose, more. I was going to try and go to Elam. Back in those days, it was really hard to get into education. Like, this is one of the differences. Like, there's a bit of a saturation in the market with creative people these days because you can get educated anywhere. But back then, you had to really fight to be able to get a place to go to. You know, it was ATI back then, which is AUT now. There'd be like a design course that would have like 32 placements. There'd be 500 people that applied, so there'd be a lot of people that would not be able to get in.
32 placements.
Okay, so so it was tough to get in. And I had this overarching thing, because obviously with my parents breaking up, my dad not really being involved in my life, I just didn't want to do what he did. You know, but I kind of just ended up doing what he did, you know. So my dad was a graphic designer.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so, and that's, you know, something that I was kind of, I suppose I was more just like anti him and not wanting to do the same thing. But what happened was, when I was growing up and he wanted to get into computers, and I suppose he saw that was the way forward. And I was getting educated after I'd been at school. Went to ATI, did production graphics, which is a 6-month course, and that was like 4 days of doing paste up and bromide cameras and that sort of carry on. And then 1 day on computers. But computers back then, like, was an SE30, like an Apple, like the screen was like this big. That Adobe bought out like ATM, which is Adobe Type Manager, which then with PostScript fonts, because the fonts were like massively pixelated. So that smoothed the edges of the fonts on screen and stuff. So it was very much at its beginning stages.
Yeah.
And
what year was this when you were?
That was like 1990. Yeah.
1990.
Yeah.
1990. When did when did Pixar launch the first animated movie? Do you know?
So I can talk about my time at Terabyte, which that was soon, which is where we get into all that sort of stuff. So so educating was looking at more traditional methods, and this is one of the things I said in my talk. Like, I trained traditionally, but then I went out and all I did was use computers. And this is the interesting thing about this time. I found when I was doing some research for my talk, that there was the story, and it was done literally a couple of months ago, and it was talking about 1991. There was 10% unemployment.
Wow.
10% unemployment. There was massive shrinkage in roles, because let's say, for example, in the graphic design business, people who would do paste up or bromide camera operator or all these things, those jobs, they disappeared. They went. And what happened was 5, 6, 7 roles shrunk down to one role on a computer, and it meant that the whole industry changed. And if you didn't adapt back then, you'd be left behind. This is exactly what's happening right now with AI, right? Okay, it's essentially it's going to delete roles, and we're going to come down. But what happened, and this is what I have to hope is going to happen, is those 7 or 8 roles that shrunk down into one role then exploded into thousands of roles, right? Because you could then become, say, for example, a lighting specialist inside a 3D production team, where all you did was focus on lighting like you would in this room, but you're doing it in a 3D sense. Imagine it took away jobs, but it gave us jobs.
New jobs.
So let's hope this AI revolution can do the same. It's gonna have its pain point. It's gonna take away jobs, but it's also gonna hopefully allow us to have more jobs.
Yes.
Do different things. It's hyper speed for a lot of creative things that we can do, right? And I use it in social marketing. I use it for inspiration. I use it to help me do the things I need to do. It's my coder in house. I talk with it like a person. Right? I ask it to build something in JavaScript for me, and it's not working, and I go, hey, it's not working. This is happening, and it comes back and it fixes it for me. So that's great.
It is.
But how do we get through this stage? That's the big thing for me. I've had a real smooth journey, I would say, a really exciting journey. And you mentioned Pixar. So when I worked at Terabyte, I started there doing print design, and one of the other things I was going to bring up in regards to getting the job there and sort of good win. So when I worked with my dad in 1991, and we go back to then, it was really hard to get a job, and how I didn't really want to be my dad. I had to go and get a job with my dad. I couldn't get a job anywhere. I applied for heaps of jobs and couldn't get a job, which is what it's like now too. Job market is crap. So I worked with my dad, and then he didn't really kind of like working with me. So then he got a studio down at the Strand, down in Parnell, and I ended up working there with a friend of his, and so it was kind of like the way that all happened, but he drilled into me attention to detail, right? That everything had to be done to a level of high detail, and I think that's what you get to when you're mature and you're older. You've got the experience that the design, the way design works, is is kind of easier for you, but you can dial down on the detail to get it right? Because when you're younger, you're trying to be creative, but you can only be you can't be 100% creative and 100% detailed, so you suffer a bit there. So he drilled into me detail. I don't think I was a very super creative person when I was younger. I just kind of did what I had to. I was doing technical illustrations, and got taught detail. And when I got that first role at Terabyte, I was doing like contract work to make tartan patterns, right? And I had to come in and make tartan patterns for a client. And so we had the fabric, we'd scan it in, I'd trace it. And one of the things that happened was Rory, who was the studio manager there, pulled me in afterwards and said, hey Matt, when you've done this, you haven't done it right.
Yeah.
And he showed me the file. And this is one of the things back then as well, what it was like. So the screen for the computer, when you viewed it at 100%, like the lines were, the tartan pattern was working, but it was overlapping in places and not kind of looking the best. And he zoomed in a little bit and said, like, see, there's overlapping. And I said, like, no, you've got to zoom right in. And I zoomed right in and showed him that at 100%, well, if you can see it, the closest you can see it, it's bang on, it's perfect. And then we looked at his, and his weren't.
Oh, wow.
So that was like, that's pretty much maybe my job interview. I ended up getting a job there, and that was through, precise design work, precise detail.
How long? So you went and studied. I mean, that's a pretty amazing feat, right? Getting into like art school, or was it AUT at the time? And then you worked with your dad for a couple of years, right? Was it a few years? Or was it?
And I was also like freelancing as well. So and that was just like networking. Yeah. So when I was at this is one of the things that has been asked of me as well, is like how do you get work? How do you get connections? And that's just through friends. So to be able to do that work at it was called Megabyte back then. My friend Simon Dickey was one who introduced me. We were at Tech together. Then when I was working out of the studio with my dad's place, there was like other design houses in there, and I went and did contract work for them. So it was really just being out there, being connected. Like, the more you connect with people, the more social you are, then the more opportunities you're going to get. What
would be, in those moments of when you were working in different companies, what were some of the biggest, I guess, challenges that you had to confront, whether if it's external or internal? Hey Sean, can you pause for a minute? Just got we can cut that out, to cut out, Oh man, it feels like I've got something something in my throat, But so going back to your question, bro, like what were some of the biggest challenges you went through as a young creative working in practice? Like you went through a lot of challenges yourself, and you overcame them. Like you sounded like, as a young fella, the split of your parents was really tough, and then the other stage is actually getting into a design or an art school. That sounded like a pretty massive challenge. What were some of the biggest challenges that you had to experience in sort of at the start of your professional career, bro? Yeah,
like you're right. It was being able to be accepted into something. You had to work really hard to get into anything. And then, as I said, like 1991 was really hard to get a job. So you needed to. It was like, again, like it's who you know, not what you know, more than often. That's the big thing. Having to to work back in those days as well. You just had to be flexible. Like people didn't have enough computers to even have this, support the staff they had. So like a A4 laser printer was $10,000. A monitor was $10,000, and a small box computer was like $5,000-$6,000 to buy. So machinery was really expensive.
That's about the price of a MacBook Pro right now.
Yeah, I know, totally. But I mean, let's think about the scale of like the tech at the time, and how that was. So we, when I first started at Terabyte as well, we were working on like black and white monitors, and I'd have to like jump in. I used Quark Express. I'd never used it before with a client sitting over my shoulder. I suppose the challenge, I mean, I met the challenges and I succeeded, and I grew. That was the big thing. I don't think anything was particularly like, super hard or challenging for me. I was just like, I was into it. I focused, I worked hard, like I worked for my dad, sort of like that 9 to 5 period. I would then go and do like a night shift, you know, after hours at Megabyte, working there. So I just worked my butt off really to get better and better and better, and just ended up like getting a job at Terabyte. Which
what drove you to do that, Matt? Like, you know, like, I mean, like most people were like, oh, I want a work-life balance, you know, I want to work during the day, do my 9 to 5, clock out and relax. But what drove you to do that, Matt? How would you describe that?
Because it was art on computers.
It was art on computers.
Art on computers, and they were continually evolving and getting better and better. And it meant that I could like draw the things I wanted to the detail level I wanted. Wow. You know, so that was really exciting for me to be able to do that. Yeah.
You've really found, I mean, it sounds like at a very young age, you've really found for yourself what you loved, and you know, like the craft pulled you through the years. For sure. And
I still love craft today. That's the thing. That's what I'm all about.
Yeah, beautiful. What? When did you realize? Like, when did you start your own practice? I mean, hang on a minute. You were freelancing.
Yeah.
To this, right? So during the day, I worked for my dad, and then I got these other connections, like through friends. Again, like just that there would be like, you know, some contract work to do. And ended up, like, I did a little bit of work with De Beer Adams down the Strand building as well, and that was kind of more in an agency thing, which was a really cool time to develop the logo for Massey University. Okay.
So to be sitting there to be like, you know, told by a creative who wasn't a computer person, and just be back then sometimes you had to just be the guy who did the work, if you know what I mean, and then there'd be other creative things, just like throwing ideas at you, and you're having to implement them. You know, you know, how about this? You know, and you're just kind of like, you know, laying them up. Yeah, so that was a cool time. Then ended up getting a job at Terabyte, and Terabyte, I worked there for 7 years, and we went through this time where I was doing print design work. I started doing like phone cards for telecom, and I did that. Okay. Ended up being like a sole charge kind of designer doing those, and that was just rinse and repeat, like the same sort of thing, like designing on a phone card and doing that. But part of that process was I ended up doing packaging as well. But in the mid-90s, we were called Terabyte Interactive, and they were pushing into interactive spaces. So we started doing CD-ROMs and you know, interactives, right? So I developed like a interactive CD-ROM for borrowing at Ingelheim for some of their asthma type inhalers, the COPD inhalers, and also did a really cool installation at Auckland Museum. We did interactives that went into Auckland Museum, and as the designer on that project, I kind of led the design team and the development team to kind of create like a uniform UI to do like these interactive installations in the museum. I did Moving on the Mantle, which was like how subduction works in our ocean, like how you know, like the plates are moving together. So we did this kind of interactive animation like that. So that was in the mid-90s doing that. You know, like
I also got to call out that Terabyte as a brand name, a business name in the mid-90s is pretty forward-thinking. When at the time, where you have floppy disks.
Yes.
And you know, like the biggest megabyte you can ever imagine was what? 100 megabytes would have been, whoa!
Yeah, like, I know. Yeah, so we had a server and it was 200 megabytes.
The times have changed, eh?
I know.
Yeah, wow, interesting.
Yeah, and so one of the things that we'd also do there, I'd done annual report covers, and Simon was, my mate Simon Dickey was famous for it because he used Photoshop. Photoshop had no layers, so when you put something on and you let it go, it would just be baked into the image, and it would take like literally an hour and a half to make it land, because you had to do an A4 300 DPI image. It would be 24 hours of actual work time to do that, and literally 20 hours of that was waiting for the progress bar to finish.
Oh man, I feel you. I think I mean, like, I'm complaining, right? Like, when I was at uni, it was the first wave. When I did architecture, it was this first wave where digital modeling was becoming more and more mainstream than just the hand-drawn. So everyone, I think it was like, I was right there when that evolution was happening. So when we first started, a lot of hand drawing, hand sketching, but by the time I finished uni, everyone was all digital modeling and computer modeling and stuff. And one of the things, you know, we had to wait for, which was ray tracing, you know, like rendering, like when you render an interior space, you got to ray trace it. And you had to watch the pixels, and they do chunks by chunks and stuff. And I feel like maybe 10 years from there onwards, that story of what I had to wait, like I had to wait 3 hours for an image to still render. But now it's 15 years later, we've got Unreal Engine, and we've got like live ray tracing, and we've got NVIDIA 40X, 4080s, or 5090s now, right? It's kind of, the evolution of technology is almost putting my experience, making me feel a bit like a dinosaur. For having that story as well. But yeah, that's hilarious.
Yeah, so one of the other things that we did was more like game style interactives, and we had concept artists there. We had a sound studio. We had a recording studio this, making interactive stuff. It was really cool. And getting through all that, doing that amazing stuff, and then the internet happened, right? And so then we went on that pathway. So the good thing for me is what happened was essentially a print design morphed into interactive design, morphed into website design, and that led me to once I did start my own business, I could do all those things.
Why did you do that, Matt? Like, why did you start your own business? Was it a natural extension of what you were doing, or did it come out of a place where you were like, I'm not feeling quite satisfied here, I could do things a little bit better, or what was it? Why did you start? It
was more of a forced solution, I think. Solution. So talk about 1991 is similar to what it's like today. Unemployment's climbing, it's hard to get a job. Technology's come in and it's shaking up the industry. Now the difference of when I started my business, there's a couple of things that were happening. I got disenchanted working at Terabyte at the end, because we worked on a project called Virtual Spectator, which was the America's Cup 3D boat tracking. And that was still at the time where it was going to be on a CD-ROM. But I spent 2 years doing that, and I ended up doing a lot of marketing banners and that sort of stuff, and I just was not happy at that point. So, and I thought, okay, it's time for me to make a move, and I'm going to get another job. And I went to do my folio, and I didn't really want to put anything in it from the last 2 years, and that's why I just, I think that was one of the big learning lesson for me, is I had to take, it's good to actually take a look at yourself, look what you're doing, and make sure you're happy with what you're doing, because you can just
I understand.
Cruise along,
I understand.
and and just do your thing, but not actually be happy. Do you know what I mean? So anyway, got a new job at a company called Web Media, which was doing really amazing things in the Flash space. So
I remember Flash.
Yep. So, and that was a time which is and we're going through this right now as well. So there was a time when Netscape was the browser, and websites were on tiny 640 by 480 screens, and navigation and stuff, and then everything kind of got bigger and it got more interactive, and Flash came along, and then it was you didn't have to design to a template, you just designed an interactive experience, right? So that interactive experience was something that was new and exciting, and also had code attached to it, so it could be smart, could be really interesting, and that's where I moved. What was happening at that point as well was there was a huge, the exponential growth of the web at that point meant that not everyone was in it, and they wanted to be in it. And then we're talking around that 2000, 2001 time, and it was the .com crash. And so what happened was, with Web Media, they had a client default on a large payment. Your work shrunk down again. You'd get 250,000 website jobs were just flying in the door, and then there was nothing, right? So that was another big time where everyone had to rethink everything and make changes. But while I was working at Web Media, I was into DJing, and I was a designer, so I knew lots of DJs, event promoters. I was doing flyers for people, so I was doing work outside, and I had these projects, and I just thought, I'll give doing my own thing a go. Web Media closed its doors, and I'd already had my company for about 3 or 4 months during that time. I'd kind of set it up. And then like about 3 weeks or so after Web Media closed, I got a call from one of the girls who was at Web Media, and she's working at a recruitment place, and they needed a designer to work on like a MAF project, like an MPI project, which was Protect New Zealand. It had like a year and a half left on this project, and
what year was this?
This is like 2001.
2001.
Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, so they needed someone to work on this, and that essentially like gave me like a contract role for a year and a half, like, and it was good as well. Like it had like decent budget to it. So I had like the dance party flyers that I was doing. I was doing work for MAF as well, and that kind of allowed me to actually start my business. Like, and actually like once I'd done that, then again, one of the people, my cousin, like Travis, who like did event promotion, he started a company called IMM, which was like an interactive company. They were getting like advertising screens and stuff like that in waiting spaces. So it's just like I just met people, and they just like my business just organically grew. And I'd talk to people, and they wanted to do like I talked to a girl who was doing like a skincare brand, and we were friends, and she wanted the design updated and ended up doing that. That was Skin Food way back in the day. So just like, you know, you'd meet people, they'd know what you do, they'd meet people, they'd say, hey, Matt does this, and it just kind of grew and grew and grew, and I didn't really have to work at it. This is the thing, it's people would just like choose me.
I mean, your timing was on point, wasn't it? Like your timing of refining your craft through digital media at the time as well.
Yeah, it's
during a growth area as well.
I just had that pathway where I could be like this, you know, full studio solution, like from a non-full studio cost, I suppose. And you'll work direct with me. There's like no like you know, it wasn't like there's 5 people in a room having a meeting and they're all getting charged out at $150 an hour. You know, it was just like you work direct with me, and you know, I just do the work. And yeah, it's like I say, worked amazingly well for me organically, you know, vicariously. Just had my own business. It's going to be like 24 years in July. Wow. Yeah, and for 23 of those years, it's been smooth. Yeah.
The other thing I noticed, you know, in your kōrero, bro, was like we've been here before, haven't we? You know, this economic time. We've been through COVID. In the 90s, we've been through 90s. We've been through the 2008 GFC, right? Like the economy and opportunities move in ebbs and flows. One of the things I love as I was listening to your story is it's almost every time when that happened, like media, what is that name of that company?
Web Media.
When they went and shut their doors, it opened up new opportunities for yourself. And if they didn't shut their doors, you know, would you have started your company as well? Like, I mean, you probably would have, right? You've gone to move it as well. But one of the things I love about your story is so far is that like new opportunities are always on the other side of strain and things that are hard, because it forces you to be innovative. Like I think like between January and the end of March, or like to now this year, I don't think I've been that innovative before personally. Launching new products on the website, releasing new products, trying new social media strategies and stuff. To be able to figure out, and how do we crack the code and unlock what our customers really care about. You know, part of at the start of this year is that we're about to launch some new colors, and you know, if we didn't have a little bit of the slowness kind of a thing, I'm not sure whether or not I would have gone and focused on investing, you know, to launch out these new colors and stuff, and by listening to our customers and everything else. So yeah, I love that reflection. It's like every challenge, there's always a flip side of opportunity and innovation that's going to propel you forward, right? Because otherwise we just get comfortable building new versions of toasters.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, I mean, you're so right, because what happens is we can easily get lost in a busy, you know, work life and not really take time out for ourselves. And I mean, I'm a dad. I've got 2 boys, busy with family as well. So you know, I think that's one of the things that that's a problem for us in today's society, is we're kind of on a mouse wheel, and the mouse wheel is actually getting faster and faster at the moment, and we actually need to just get off it. Like say, you've had this quiet time to be able to innovate, you know, but you need to actually just make time to innovate, even if you're on, you know, the mouse wheel's going fast. You've just got to get off it every now and then. You know? So,
I love it. I love it. I mean, you've been around, you know, like you've had your business for what, 24 years now. You know, looking back, I guess what is the impact do you hope to leave behind in the world?
It's just, you know, better the world by design. That's one of the things that you know, I really like work towards, is like there is value in good design. Yeah. And we just hope that that stays and people see that. You know, that's one of the things that you know, I don't want to like tarnish what it's like today, but you know, people are a lot more savvy. They know a lot more. Yes. People think that they can do things themselves, and they look at it and they don't know that it's bad. This is the problem. Yeah. You know, so that's the thing that I'm seeing a lot at the moment, and it almost like got to me. You know, when I did the talk at Autumn Design Week, was like I'm seeing a lot of this, and so my talk was a bit around fundamentals of design, thinking about things like hierarchy. Yeah. You know, and how that works, and that's, you know, something that is a very fine balance inside design. You know, so
My last question for you, bro, is like if you were to, I don't know, give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be, Matt?
That's a really, really tough one to answer. Yeah, but you know, all I'd say is like to myself is perhaps be more open than you were. Yeah. Don't try and you know, shield yourself from things. I say just be more open. You know? Be more open, eh? Yeah. Awesome. My advice, if I was to look back in my 20s, like younger self, is like don't take myself too seriously. You know, and the 20s is kind of the period where you experiment, make mistakes, you know, to find that path that you're meant to go on. The last thing I love to reflect with you is I recently read this book by Tim Grover called Relentless, and it's the book of it's the trainer to Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant and Dwayne Wade, all the NBA players. I'm a NBA. I'm a fan of NBA, and he often talks about it's a lot, right? Some of it's pretty intense, right? About how do you dig into yourself to just put in the work that you need to put in to get to a place where you can better the world or achieve a goal. But one of the things that really struck me that he's I was sitting in the car, it's an audiobook on my drive home, and one of the things that clicked for me last week was this verse about him saying like if you're hungry for the results, if you crave the result, so for NBA players it's craving another championship ring, right? But if you crave that result, whatever it is for you, then the work that you have to do now and the pain that you have to go through, it doesn't matter, you know. And for me in entrepreneurship, there's certain targets and certain goals. I love to see the world change in this particular way. That's what I crave. But for you, I guess you brought me back to, because I was a designer, I was an architect. I get it when you said that. When you look at your portfolio, it doesn't, you know, it like, it's got to resonate with you.
Does it resonate? Or just like you look at that poster and that font is out of line. It just doesn't feel right. Like I really get it, and I feel like you reminded me. You know, like it almost feels like what you're relentless about, and what you're craving is almost. It's the craft, right? It's the craft to test yourself, to be innovative and to be creative, and because how much you care about craving that result, like it feels like to me it doesn't matter what the work is, what the workers require now. So I appreciated that insight.
Starting my business, I've had the opportunity to be able to do the work that I want a lot of the time, you know, most of the time, and that's very different from, you know, being in larger companies doing work for, say, telcos or something, which had like a short life cycle, you know. Just being able, especially, you know, working in the FMCG space, to be able to see your products out on the shelves, see when you do that, like try to make products look different enough that they stand out in the market. You know, to be able to see those, you know, results is really, really special, you know. Yeah, and
awesome.
just evolve with everything online. It's a continual evolution.
Yeah. And we embrace it because that's the journey. That's innovation, eh?
Yep.
So we don't build average-looking toasters.
Yeah.
I love that, eh? Matt, just before we close off, where do people find you? How do they get to learn about the work that you do? How do they work with you?
So website's mata.nz.
MATA.
MATA. That's my company name is a shrinking down of me. Back in the day, I'll tell a funny story there. So obviously my name is Matthew Allen. I get called Matt Allen, and then that. There's lots of Matts that came out in the 1970s, so there's quite a few Matts around. So when I worked at Terabyte, there was a Matt Z, and I was Matt A, so I'd be called Matt A. And then at Web Media, there was a Matt B, Matt Buchanan, so it'd be Matt B, I'd be Matt A, so I just got called Matt A, and then I got called Mata. And then, so that's when I started my own business. I wanted to have Mata as my company name, right? But there's a playground mat manufacturer.
I know, cool. I used to work for them. I used to work for them.
Oh man. So and in the 1990s they had matter.co.nz, so I couldn't get that. So then I took a T out and made it Mata. That was how Mata got made. Because at the time I was obviously better to have a shorter domain name. And so I managed to get that domain. That became my company name. I actually used that as my portfolio site to get my job at Web Media at the time, and then that became my company name. And there's another funny story actually, because this is one of the things as a designer I had to do some pretty cool branding projects. And when I was working at Terabyte, they wanted to rebrand, and when they rebranded, they asked me to design the logo, but not working inside the company, doing it outside the company. They contracted me while I was employed there to design the logo for them, because you imagine designing a logo inside a design house for a company that's full of designers is really hard. So I did that, got the concept done and presented it, and I built this rationale based system for designing brands. And the rationale was solid as, and presented it. They liked it, but they just didn't think it was the right time. And so they just did a slight incremental, update. Then, fast forward to me starting my business, I designed this logo for Terabyte, and I thought that'd be cool for my logo, and so I used it.
Awesome, man. Awesome.
So that my Mata logo, that's the logo I designed for Terabyte.
Wow.
Back then.
You know what? Just last, I think it's just hilarious that Terabyte as a company back in the mid 90s. That's the phrase Terabyte is unimaginable.
Yes.
But right now you go to the warehouse and you just buy 2 terabytes.
I know.
Oh man, it does. And I feel like that speaks to a lot of things, right? That speaks to, there's all this, excitement and even potential fear about AI and what that looks like into the future. But at some stage,
speed of innovation.
Yeah. And it's awesome, right? But I feel like at some stage, maybe 10 years or 15 years later, or maybe 20 years later, we're gonna go to the warehouse and you can probably pick something that is AR related, and it's gonna feel a bit trivial because it's so integrated into our lives, eh? So, well, kia ora, bro. I really enjoyed this chat today. I felt like it's been really life-giving, eh? So, really appreciate you coming out, man. And I loved your insights. So, tēnā koe, bro. It's so good to have you with us, eh? Awesome. Cheers, Rick. See you on the next one. Right.